Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new and you like to hear about opinions, reviews, and analyses on films, books, and TV shows, be sure to hit that subscribe button for more content from me. I know it's been over a month since my last video, and honestly, part of it is because I've been in a bit of a media and reading slump. I got obsessed with two new shows, 911 and 911 Lone Star, but I was in a slump for film and books. But I think I'm finally out of that slump. Anyway, the MCU has been releasing so much content lately that it's kind of hard to keep up, but I've always been a fan of Thor, so naturally I watched it last week when it premiered, and today's video will be my review on Thor: Love and Thunder. Or as Brooklyn Nine-Nine had dubbed it years ago, Thor 4 More Thor. As always, I will begin with a spoiler-free review since a lot of people haven't seen it yet. The number one thing you guys should know about this film is that it's a comedy film, so yeah, it's hilarious. That being said, not everyone has the same sense of humor as I do, so not everyone may enjoy the humor and tone of the film. But I did. The comedy was 10 out of 10 for me because I was laughing so hard that 1, I was crying, and 2, the back of my head hurt, which happens only whenever I laugh really hard. So the plot was meh. There, I said it. It's not groundbreaking, it's not deep, it's meh. But I wasn't expecting much. Why wasn't I expecting much? There wasn't really as much hype for Love and Thunder as there was for No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness. But the trailer gives you the vibe to expect in the film, and that's the vibe I got. The film felt very contained, if I'm being honest. There's some continuity, and obviously there's a connection to the MCU, but it felt very much like a solo character film rather than the big name team-ups we've been seeing. It also is very much keeping in theme with the character development over plot development thing that Phase 4 has been going for, so it's nice to have that consistency. I know that so many people on social media are bashing it and hating it, but Thor is my favorite OG Avenger and I vibe with this film. It's fun and it's dumb, but it also introduced more gods. And that's not a spoiler because we were shown Russell Crowe as Zeus in the trailer. Also, we can't forget the soundtrack, which absolutely fit the vibe of the film. I would include a clip, but YouTube's copyright checks means I can't. So overall, it's not a perfect film, and sure, it had a lot of faults, but it's funny, had a great soundtrack, and it's great if all you want is escapism in a film. I will now be giving my thoughts and reactions to specific things in the film. So friendly reminder that this part isn't spoiler free, so if you haven't seen the film yet, don't watch this part of the video. I will now say something that is controversial, especially coming from a film major. A film doesn't need to be overly deep, serious, or even good to be enjoyable. The film gods will strike me for that, but I stand by it. Like I said in the previous part, this film isn't deep, nor was it even good in terms of storytelling, but it's funny and I had a blast watching it. So it did get a wee bit confusing because the film had a lot of retconning and recap. So it was both good and bad. Good because people who haven't watched the previous Thor films or even any of the Avengers films that Thor appeared in were given the quick rundown about what led to Thor being with the Guardians of the Galaxy at the beginning of the film. But it's bad because the retconning, especially with Thor and Jane's relationship, did make it incredibly confusing for those who watched the films, and it raises continuity issues. I'll admit, I never watched Thor: Dark World, but I'm 90% sure that Thor and Jane's relationship didn't end the way that Love and Thunder said that it did. So that was one of the issues I had with the film. But I loved the visuals. I would so include a clip if I can, but Thor's first fight scene had this one shot that was so beautiful with the orange, and also the use of black and white in the Shadow Realm sequence was insane. It gave me major film noir vibes, and having only the colors coming from Stormbreaker and Thor's Thunder was so cool. It also gave me comic book vibes, if that makes sense, just having that contained pop of color in a sea of black and white. So going off of that point, the coloring and lighting of the scenes absolutely match the tonal shifts in the film. So it's bright and colorful when the film was comedic and lighthearted, but it darkens and becomes void of color whenever gore makes an appearance, giving it an almost horror vibe. And even though the film becomes visually darker in some aspects, I'm not squinting at the scene to see what was going on. Like, I can still see the action very clearly, which was great. Like, I'm a big fan of great lighting use. Now, I'm not sure if the next thing I'm gonna say is a hot take or not, but I do love Thor's ending as a dad/father figure. It's a great character arc for him because clearly he's a family guy. He still loved Loki even though he was betrayed by him time and time again. He loves his mom and he respected his dad. So to have him be a father figure to a little girl at the end was just great. And someone on Tumblr actually pointed out a parallel. Thor adopted his enemy's daughter, Odin adopted his enemy's son. Except Thor is clearly going to be a better adoptive father to his daughter than Odin was to Loki. So Thor's ending then is connected with the overall theme of love. And yeah, there's romantic love going on in the film, but I love how familial love was emphasized too, and how the film showed that family doesn't need to be biological. It can be found family too, aka my favorite trope. Also, the way I connected the dots with Guns N' Roses' A Sweet Child of Mine being used in the trailer and Thor's ending with him having a daughter, my mind was blown. That was smart. Okay, and now on to my final point. I am a mythology nerd, especially Greek mythology. So yes, I was super psyched to finally have Greek mythology being brought into the MCU, and I wasn't disappointed. Zeus's characterization was on point and very similar to that in Percy Jackson, with him as vengeful and wrathful in that post-credits scene. It's also interesting to have like that contrast between Zeus and Thor, who share the same domains. Thor used to be arrogant just like Zeus, but you see that Thor is somehow more human than the other gods, and he definitely is closer to humanity than they are. He's come a long way-ish. I mean, like, he doesn't see humans as worshippers, but he does still tend to be a little reckless. And yes, I'm talking about how he killed Zeus. I was glad that they didn't really kill off Zeus, because that would have been like a total waste. I was confused for a second though in the post-credits scene, then I'm like, oh right, he just used the lightning bolt on Zeus, and Zeus is an immortal god. He won't die unless it was the Necro sword used on him. Anyway, I will conclude by saying how I'm super excited to see Hercules, aka Brent Goldstein, aka Roy Kent from Ted Lasso in the MCU. I want to hear him drop an F-bomb so badly. But also a possible Hercules versus Thor conflict in the future. I'm so here for it. So overall, I recommend the film if you love the humor and use of soundtrack in Thor Ragnarok. It's funny and an easy watch. There was a lot going on, but it's a fairly short film, so just under 2 hours. It's certainly not a perfect film by any means, but I had a good time when I was watching it, and I'd watch it again. And that's a wrap on Thor Love and Thunder. My next video is going to be up by the end of July, and it will be on Portrait of a Thief. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe.